Shalom. I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Wakakodash, Yahweh, which is the one true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one true name is Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, meaning coming in the name, Ba means coming in, Ha means the, Shah means name, Rakah means spirit, Kodash meaning holy. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom to you, sincere brothers that are scattered abroad, pushing forth his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom to you, sincere sisters that are listening in silence, as the scriptures command you to do so. I am the brother Mashiach Razakah, and pretty much this lesson is going to be taught as the strangers, right, that are mentioned in the Old Testament, right? The strangers, when I'm saying the Old Testament, the scriptures that you read in Exodus 12 and 18 through 19, also going down to verse 43 in chapter 12 there, those were Israelites, okay? Now, you got certain scriptures that talks about strangers, right, which can also be referring to heathens, natural heathens, but certain scriptures in the Bible that talks about strangers, right, dwelling well amongst Israel, those strangers, those are talking about Israelite foreigners. That's talking about Israel as well. And we're going to prove as an example on what I mean. So when you read certain scriptures like in Exodus 12, right, or certain scriptures, I think Exodus chapter 20, right, where you go down, it talks about the strangers, right? That's talking about Israelites, right? That's not talking about natural heathens. Because remember, you had Israelites that were, were called those strangers. Like we were strangers. Before we came into this truth, we were strangers. We were Israelites of the flesh. We had a Gentile state of mind. So we were cast out as those strangers, as those heathens or Gentiles. We had a Gentile mind state, right? So we were strangers at one time. But now that we came and got this 100% truth, we're no longer those strangers, right? So I'm going to read Exodus 12 and 18. Now this is going into the Passover, right? And the Lord was saying within the Passover, you're supposed to be 7 days and not eat no leavened bread. This is going into the Passover, but it's going to mention strangers here, all right? Now, the strangers that's mentioned in Exodus 12, 18, 19, and down to verse 43, we're going to skip down to verse 43. That's all talk. That's dealing with Israel. Those were those strangers, okay? And Lord willing, is that edifying because you got Christians, they'll read Exodus 12, verse 18, 19, and 43 to say, see, you got strangers that was around in the Passover. Those were Gentiles. No, those were Israelite foreigners. Those were Israelites. Okay? They were called strangers because during the captivity of the Egyptians, even in Egypt, like Moses was an Israelite, right? But he learned the wisdom of Pharaoh, right? He was taught the ways of in the house of Pharaoh, right? But he was an Israelite. Just giving an example, Moses was a stranger at one time, but the Lord gave him the realizing of he was an Israelite, right? He learned the ways of the Lord, the true wisdom, and became a prophet, right? He was a deliverer and a prophet, right? As well as Aaron. So you had Israelites that were strangers because they were in the ways of Egypt, of Ham, right? Let's read it. Exodus 12:18. It says, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even, it says, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. And this is going into the Passover, right? Verse 19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, right, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. So whether he be a stranger or born in the land, right? This is talking about Israel here. But you got white Italian Christians, they'll say, see the stranger right there. So you had heathens that was around during the Passover. No, that's not what that's talking about. All right? Let's read down to verse 43. Because they'll read 12 and 43 as well. Right? I should have highlighted it. Right? Look into this. This is Exodus 12 and 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. See that? There shall no stranger eat thereof. All right, now you got Christians, they'll read this here and say these are Gentiles here. These were those strangers were of the other nations. No, There ain't no other nations dwelling amongst the Lord's people during that time. No. No, 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 no. Let's prove it. Acts. This is how we know that those strangers that's mentioned in Exodus 12 and what's this 18 through 19 and verse 43 on down to verse 43. That's those strangers were Israelites. Acts 13:17. Look into this. Acts 13:17. It says the Most High of this people of Israel chose our fathers and exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers. Let's read again. It says the Most High of this people of Israel chose our fathers and exalted, right, the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt, and with high arm brought he them out of it. So you see, those strangers that we're reading in Exodus 12 and 18 through 19, and we read verse 43, those strangers were Israelites. They were Israelites. They were not natural heathens. So, for you brothers out there that teach, make sure you have these scriptures, because you got Christians, they will come to you with Exodus 12 and 18 and verse 19 saying that those strangers, you had natural heathens dwelling amongst Israel during the Passover. And that's no. Those strangers were Israelites. Okay? Those strangers, they were Israelites. They were not no damn natural heathen. There was no natural heathen dwelling amongst Israel during the Passover. No. Read it again. Acts 13:17, it says the power of his people of Israel chose our fathers and exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt, and with a high arm brought he him out of it. So those strangers, that's in Exodus 12 and 18 through 19 on down to verse 43, those were Israelites. Those strangers were Israelites. So hey man, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. Just had to do a quick hit. Giving all praises to Yahweh Bashim Ashai Bashim Okakodash. So there you go. Those strangers were Israelites. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. On to the next one. Shalom.